She married my dad for control, not love. Now she's furious I'm not obeying her. Hey Reddit. My name's Jake, I'm 25 years old, and before I get into the madness that's unfolding in my family right now, I want to give you some context, because this didn't just start last week. This has been building for years. Like a pot that's been simmering with all the wrong ingredients, and now the lid just blew off. My mom passed away when I was 15. That changed everything. She was my world, funny, kind, the glue that held the whole family together. When she died, it didn't just leave a hole in our hearts, it left a vacancy in our lives. One that, unfortunately, my dad tried to fill way too quickly. Within a year, he was dating this woman, let's call her Carla. I knew something was off about her immediately. She was fake nice. You know the type, smiles too wide, compliments that somehow feel like insults, always helping while making sure you knew she was the one holding things together. By the time I was 17, they were married. I wasn't consulted, barely invited. It felt like a formality. And from that moment on, it was like Carla saw me as a threat to her position. I wasn't a grieving teenager anymore. I was competition, for attention, control, and maybe even inheritance, though that's a whole other can of worms. She started slowly. At first, it was, Jake, don't talk to your dad about money, that's our business now. Or, Jake, I think you should move out soon, it's time to be independent. Meanwhile, she was moving her adult son into my room while I was at college. But I kept quiet. I thought, you know what? If my dad's happy, whatever. Let him have this. Maybe I'm just bitter. Maybe I need to give her a chance. Now I'm 25. I've got my own life, a decent job, an apartment a couple hours away. I visit sometimes, but things have always been tense. Carla keeps trying to act like she's my mom. Like she earned that title. But now, she's crossed a line. Because lately, she's started making demands. Real ones. Controlling ones. The kind that say, I married into this family, and I expect obedience. And Reddit, I don't play that game. So like I said, things were already tense between Carla and me. I tolerated her because I thought it was the mature thing to do, keep the peace, visit dad, smile through the fake niceties, and go home. But she was always testing the limits, poking at boundaries, trying to establish herself as some kind of authority figure in my life. I let it go until she crossed the line. It started when my dad had a minor health scare. Nothing huge, chest pains, short hospital visit, mostly stress. But suddenly, Carla was acting like she was queen of the castle. She started calling me, not to update me on his condition, but to give me instructions. I'm not kidding. The first call went like this. Jake, now that your father's not feeling well, I need you to step up. You need to come home every weekend. Help around the house. Take some financial pressure off us. Excuse me. I live 2 hours away. I work 50+ hours a week. I pay my own rent, bills, and still send dad things when I can. But now I'm obligated to come be her little helper. I asked her, straight up, is this what dad wants? And she goes, I don't need to run things by him. I'm his wife. I am the family now. That sentence hit me like a brick. She wasn't even pretending anymore. Not the fake kindness, not the sugary guilt trips, she was now flat out trying to command me. Like she thought she was the boss just because she married into the family. Because she saw me as this inconvenient leftover from a previous life. I told her I'd think about it, just to end the call. But inside, I was furious. And then she took it even further. A week later, I get a call from my cousin, he's close to my dad, and he tells me Carla's been telling the whole extended family that I'm irresponsible, selfish, and leaving her to take care of everything alone. She painted this picture of herself as the exhausted stepmother struggling to keep the house together while the ungrateful son refuses to step up. That's when I knew, this wasn't about family. This wasn't about my dad's health. This was about control. And she thought if she guilt me enough, or embarrassed me in front of the family, I'd fold. She doesn't know me very well. Because I don't fold. I document. I wait. And I act. Part 3. That's when I decided to dig. If Carla wanted to play games, I was going to find out exactly what she was hiding behind all that fake concern. And trust me, I found something. Something big. So I mentioned that Carla had been running her mouth, trying to smear my name to the extended family, making herself out to be some long-suffering saint while painting me as the cold, ungrateful son. I decided then that I wasn't going to just let it slide anymore. I started digging. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who snoops for fun. But I do believe in protecting my family, and I had this gnawing feeling that Carla wasn't just being controlling, she was hiding something. You ever get that gut instinct, like there's more beneath the surface? That's where I was. So I started with public records, just general curiosity, right? Found out she had a bankruptcy filing about 10 years ago. Okay, no shame in that, life's hard. But then I noticed a pattern. A couple different addresses, some aliases, and 3 previous marriages. One of them lasted under 6 months. I also remembered her son, the one she moved into my old room, had mysteriously dropped out of college, didn't work, and was somehow still driving a newer car than me. Curious, huh? I started calling around. Reached out to one of my old neighbors who still lives next door to Dad. That's when it really got sketchy. Apparently, Carla's been pawning off some of Dad's stuff. Tools. Collectibles. A vintage guitar that meant the world to him, gone. She claimed she was downsizing, but my neighbor said she saw Carla loading things into her car when Dad was at the doctor. I confronted Dad carefully, didn't want to make it a war. Just asked if he knew about the guitar. He looked confused. Said he thought it was still in the house. Then his face changed. Like something finally clicked. And he got quiet. That silence said everything. See, Dad's not a fool. He's just tired. After Mom died, I think he gave up on conflict. He just wanted peace, and Carla came in like a wrecking ball dressed as a therapist. After that conversation, I asked Dad if he would let me handle some of his paperwork, bills, accounts, that kind of thing. Surprisingly, he said yes. That's when I saw it. She'd been taking money out of his account. Small amounts, but regularly. Transferring it to a household account that he didn't even have access to. That's when I knew, she wasn't just trying to control me. She was bleeding him dry, slowly, quietly, under the radar. And she thought no one would notice. Oh, but I did. Now that I had proof Carla was moving money and pawning off my dad's things, I knew I had to act, but not recklessly. This wasn't some sitcom where I could just storm in and yell, "Gotcha," and everything would be fine. My dad still lived with her. He was still under her influence, and frankly, he wasn't in a place emotionally to deal with the fallout of being betrayed by someone else he loved. So, I decided to get smart about it. I started documenting everything. Every unauthorized transfer, every item that went missing, every time she called to demand help. I took screenshots, made copies, even set up a shared spreadsheet Dad and I could view together. I didn't tell him what I was doing at first, I just told him I was helping organize finances. Meanwhile, I started looping in a lawyer friend of mine. Told him the situation, sent him what I had. He looked at it and said, "Jake, this isn't just shady. This could be fraud, maybe even elder financial abuse depending on your state." That hit me like a freight train. Because suddenly this wasn't just about her being manipulative. It was criminal. I decided I needed to talk to Dad again. This time, I laid it all out, calmly, respectfully, but directly. At first, he just stared at me. Then he said one of the saddest things I've ever heard. I thought if I just ignored it, it would stop. I didn't want to lose someone else. That broke me. Because I realized, he knew. Maybe not every detail, but he wasn't blind. He just didn't have the strength to fight back. So I told him, "You don't have to fight alone. But you also don't have to stay trapped." That was the turning point. We agreed to open a separate account in his name only. We rerouted his pension and checks there. We made sure Carla couldn't access it. Quietly, I got him a new P.O. box and a backup phone, just in case she started snooping. And then we waited. Because I wanted her to make the next move. She did. When she realized the money had stopped flowing into her account, she absolutely lost it. She called me, screaming. I mean full-on banshee mode, accusing me of turning him against her, stealing her husband, and sabotaging their future. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I just said, you married my dad, not his bank account. You want control. Go get a job. Then I hung up. That's when things really hit the fan. Because Carla didn't take the financial cut-off quietly. She retaliated. And what she did next? That was her biggest mistake yet. After I cut off her access to Dad's money, Carla snapped. At first, it was just the screaming phone calls, which I ignored. Then came the guilt-tripping texts, your father is stressed and sick because of you. If anything happens to him, it'll be on your conscience. Classic emotional blackmail. I didn't respond. I'd seen this playbook before, and I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction. But then she escalated. I got a call one morning from Dad's neighbor, the same one who helped me figure out Carla was sneaking stuff out. She said, Jake, your dad's been taken to the hospital. My heart dropped. I rushed over. Turned out, it was high blood pressure, again, mostly stress. When I got there, Dad looked tired, emotionally wrung out. But what really got me? Carla was nowhere to be found. She had left him at the hospital. The nurses told me she came with him, threw a fit about having to wait, then said, call me when he's discharged, and walked out. Left him sitting there alone. That was it. I'd seen enough. I helped him get settled back at home, then sat down with him and laid it all out. Dad, you need to think about protecting yourself legally. If she's willing to leave you like that in a moment of crisis, what do you think she'll do if you really get sick? He didn't argue this time. He just nodded slowly and said, I think it's time. The next week, we went to see an elder law attorney together. We had his will updated. We added power of attorney documents, with me listed, not Carla. We froze any joint accounts she could still touch. The attorney helped us file paperwork to start removing her from the house deed, since Dad had owned it before they were married and never added her name. And when she found out, Carla exploded. She came home that night and went ballistic. Screaming, throwing things, accusing Dad of being manipulated by me. She even threatened to call the cops and say I was abusing my father. Thankfully, I had everything documented and recorded, including Dad's clear-headed, voluntary choices. He didn't raise his voice, but he did something even more powerful. He looked her dead in the eye and said, get out of my house. She looked stunned, like she'd just been slapped. But he repeated it. This isn't your home. You were never here for me, just what I could give you. Now it's over. She packed a bag that night, still cursing me the whole way out. Said I'd destroyed everything, that I was jealous of her, that I'd regret this. Spoiler, I don't. We deal with the aftermath. Because Carla? She wasn't done causing problems just yet. And trust me, what she tried next took things from petty to vile. You'd think getting kicked out would have been enough to make Carla disappear quietly. But no. Carla wasn't done. She wasn't embarrassed. She was enraged. And desperate. A few days after she stormed out of the house, I started getting blocked calls. Then emails from burner accounts. They were all from her, different names, same writing style. One accused me of elder abuse. One said she was going to go to the media. Another one hinted that if I didn't back off, she'd leak things about me to my employer. I don't even have an employer, I freelance from home. Then she went after Dad. She showed up at his doctor's office, claiming to be his legal caretaker. Tried to access his medical records. The receptionist knew something was off and called me. Luckily, the legal paperwork we filed was already processed, and the office had the new documentation listing me as the medical proxy. They denied her access and flagged her behavior. So what did she do next? Filed a police report claiming I was isolating and abusing my father. Yeah. That happened. 2 officers showed up at Dad's house, asked to speak with him privately. I stepped aside. 5 minutes later, they came back out, one of them kind of shaking his head like he couldn't believe they'd been called out for this. Dad calmly explained the situation, showed them the power of attorney and documentation. They left, no incident, but it rattled him. He told me, that woman would have let me die in a hospital waiting room. And now she wants to call herself my victim. That night, he made the final call. He wanted a restraining order. We filed it the next morning. The judge granted a temporary one immediately and scheduled a hearing. Carla was officially banned from contacting him or stepping foot near his house. And still, she tried one more thing. She reached out to a cousin of mine she barely knew, told her this sob story about how I was a gold digger manipulating my poor, sick dad. Luckily, that cousin's got a sharp head on her shoulders. She called me directly and said, yeah, she just made herself look even worse. At that point, Carla was out of moves. The family knew. The law knew. Dad had finally stood his ground, and I had his back the whole way. But the damage she caused? The stress, the lies, the manipulation. That was going to take time to clean up. We start picking up the pieces, and uncover one last secret Carla thought we'd never find. After the restraining order, things slowly started to calm down. Dad was safer, and for once, I felt like we were actually in control of our own lives again. But the damage Carla had done was still hanging over us like a dark cloud. Family relationships were strained, and Dad was still emotionally shaken. One afternoon, while going through some paperwork we'd inherited from Mom, I found something that completely blindsided me. Hidden at the bottom of an old file box was a thick envelope marked with Dad's name, but it wasn't something he'd mentioned before. Inside were documents showing that before Carla ever came into the picture, Dad had set up a sizable trust fund for his kids. The money was earmarked for our education, health, and even future homes, stuff he'd never talked about in recent years. But the trust had never been properly funded, or so we thought. There was also a note from Dad's lawyer that he'd been planning to update the trust after Mom passed away, but life had gotten in the way. He'd been hesitant to mention it because Carla had been pushing him to sign over more control of his assets to her. This was huge. If Carla had gotten her way, she might have been able to drain not just his checking account but potentially that trust fund too. I sat down with Dad, and we started talking through the steps we needed to secure that money legally. We contacted the lawyer, and he helped us finalize the trust and made sure Carla couldn't touch a dime. Finding that envelope felt like uncovering a hidden lifeline. Like Dad's way of protecting us all, even when things looked bleak. At the same time, it gave Dad new hope and determination. He started opening up more, sharing stories about Mom and the life they built together, memories that Carla had tried to erase or twist. But the family wasn't all behind us. Some relatives, influenced by Carla's manipulations, were still skeptical. They'd ask questions like, "Why are you so against her?" or, "Are you sure you're not overreacting?" That was frustrating. But Dad and I knew the truth. We had the proof, the documents, the witnesses. And, most importantly, we had each other. After securing the trust and getting everything legally locked down, I finally felt like Dad and I could breathe again. Carla was gone, the restraining order was in place, and the family, well, most of them, were starting to see the real picture. But the healing process wasn't instant. Dad had been emotionally beaten down by years of manipulation and gaslighting. It took time for him to realize that love isn't control, and that the people who truly care about you respect your choices. Our relationship. It improved dramatically. We started doing things together, small stuff at first, like going out to lunch or watching old movies at home. He even started opening up about feelings he'd kept buried for years. It was like a weight had lifted. As for Carla, after the restraining order, she tried to stir up more drama, sending messages through mutual contacts, trying to paint herself as the victim. But no one was buying it anymore. The legal actions, the documented abuse, the support from the community, everything backed up Dad's side. Eventually, she faded away. She moved to another state, no one really heard from her again. I won't lie, the whole ordeal left scars. But it also taught me a lot about standing up for the people you love, even when it means fighting the people closest to you. If there's one thing I want Reddit to take away from my story, it's this: sometimes family isn't about blood or marriage. Sometimes it's about who shows up for you when it counts. And Dad? He showed up for me too. We're stronger now because we fought together, and we won't be fooled or controlled again. Thanks for reading. If anyone's going through something similar, I'm here to listen.